What is such an interesting and kind of fresh topic to explore, like this kind of intimacy and caring between groups of straight men, and how was it first? How did you first conceptualize it?
Well, when I decided I wanted to be a filmmaker, that was around the time that I came out, and so I came out pretty late, at least in my opinion, for me. And around that time, I was just kind of exploring my identity as a gay man and like my femininity that I had repressed my whole life. And for a long time, I had this kind of attitude that was like, oh, I never really felt like a man. I never really felt like accepted by men. Fuck them, like I was like, I'm going in my own corner. I'm gonna do my own thing. Like I don't need the validation or love or brotherhood or a group of friends or male friends. And then as I got older, I realized actually that I needed that very badly in my soul and in my heart, and there was something missing in my life that just didn't ever really feel like I had that companionship. And so when I moved to Austin to go to UT for grad school, I was ready to fully explore that for the first time. And so this idea just came to me, and I kind of thought it would be interesting to revisit guys that I grew up around from the perspective of someone who's never been in a group like that. And that could portray something that they might not portray about themselves.
Nice. Yeah, I thought your central character was so interesting. It kind of seems like, I don't know, to me, he's like a kind of archetypal character at times, like this very sweet, loving person that's also very kind of like isolates themselves from others. Or maybe how do you think about him as his psychology, his character?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like a superhero, honestly, like if I thought of like a male archetype, he was kind of, in my opinion, in this story, like a superhero, or like a hero in general, where he's heroic because he's leading with intuition, and even if he feels like he's not enabled to maybe communicate what he wants to say, he's trying. And that's how I conceived of him. I really leaned into the way Eric, the actor, is in real life. Like he's a sweetheart. So, and with all of the other guys, like I really leaned into kind of how they all actually fit together. And that dynamic is very accurate to how they act when they're, just hanging out.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Do you ever count how many times they say dude?
I haven't thought about that. Maybe we need another sound mix. Maybe we need another edit. Everyone's it's gonna drive everyone crazy.
Very, very accurate. Questions?
How much of the script was like year two versus improv? Because it seemed really natural in the conversations.
So some of the scenes were very written. Like the scene between Eric and Jaime on the bleachers was extremely written. And the same thing actually all the scenes with Eric and Jaime, like when he goes back to the studio to get his phone, when he goes to check on him, all of those were written. The group scenes were improvised but led by me. So we did a few rehearsals where we figured out, I knew like the main beats, and I knew kind of the concepts that I wanted them to get to, and then we figured out like how we could get there. So like initially I didn't necessarily think that this idea of having Riz, which I didn't know about at the time, I was like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? I was like, oh, I'm horrified. I don't know. I was like, Riz? Who says that? I was like, but I didn't know that was going to be the main, like girls, even just talking about girls. I mean, I didn't necessarily actually want that to be a topic or a component. But then I realized that actually it was extremely important for them to talk about their interactions with women and how this person felt ashamed of himself because he, in competition or in comparison to the other friends in his group, it brought him deep shame to feel like he didn't have this charm. I think Jaime is a very charming person, but the character, of course, doesn't. So we just kind of like figured out, okay, how do we get from A to to see beginning to end in those group scenes.
So obviously the ending was not to really get unfinished, and I was just curious like what your intention with the audience doing that was to
Yeah, I mean, I guess I tend to like ambiguous endings because they feel like life to me. You know, they just feel like the way my life feels. I don't know. There's, although there's many moments of joy and feelings of, feeling complete, I felt like it made sense for this particular film to leave on this note of, okay, this hasn't been addressed, and I want people to feel like it might never be addressed, it might never come up. And I just wanted people to kind of be plunged in this feeling of loneliness and isolation and disconnection that they're feeling without it ending in like a tragedy. Because I didn't think that that was necessary. I thought it was more interesting and more true to me if it felt like, especially as someone, I mean, we've all gone through stuff, you know, you might have a big meltdown, like a big cry, and then your life just kind of goes on in this like ennui after that until you feel better. And I think that kind of specific feeling is what I was going for.
Yeah, so like I thought like the thing that really like moved me about the movie is that we're seeing most of Jaime from the perspective of his friend, and his friend knowing something about him that he doesn't know his friend knows. I was wondering like if, specifically the self-harm.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that was always, did you always think you were going to write, did you start knowing you were going to write from the perspective of a friend?
Yes, always. I mean, the first idea, for the people that have been in film school, I was in our suite, like an editing suite one day, and they have no windows. Like, you're in there for long stretches. You're getting creative, like you're getting ripped apart sometimes. And I was like, this is a place for someone to unravel, you know what I mean? And I started in there, I just saw this image like of me like going by the doors, and I was like, what if I looked in there and I saw someone hurting himself? Like that image came to me. And then immediately after I was like, this is definitely about someone observing that though. It's not, I think the hook wasn't to portray just that experience alone. And I started to think a lot about like situations in our lives where you have a friend that they're not being completely, like they're not telling you that they need help, or they don't know that they need help and you think that they do, and how difficult that is for me to witness, like especially if I have a friend that's a woman and she has this boyfriend that's new and nobody likes him and he's a dick, and but I can't really say that, I can't really, I love this gray area. Like I loved, the more I thought about this idea, the more I realized how difficult it could be to bring it up. And I tried as hard as I could to counter this idea of like, well, just say it. Like, he should just be able to say it. I would say it, but I think, hopefully, it feels like at that feeling that he should be able to, but it makes sense why he wouldn't.
Where did that Chrissy pickup line come from? How did you come up with that?
Oh, the ears?
Yeah.
That was Jaime. Yeah, that was him. Yeah, I didn't write that. I like your lobes.
That was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like my previous work in the last, since 2018 through 2024 was about me, like my perspective as a gay man in different situations a lot of the time. So I made me interacting with a straight guy, or me reflecting on in a personal way about growing up and the guys I was around. And I just think it's fun to occupy different territories and not feel limited to just my identity is the only thing I can make a movie about. I love the idea of infusing a sense of gayness in a straight movie. this feeling that a gay man made this movie is something that I aspired for. I just think it's exciting. Like, it's exciting when something feels mainstream or like a little more conventional, but has this underbelly of being gay. So I was definitely like conscious of that and going for that.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the history of American cinema, there's so many films made by gay men that are, you know, completely, it's in there, but, you know, it's not on the surface at all. Yeah. So what are you going to be doing next?
So basically, my cat, my producer, is here. So, so with her help, what we did was we made this film, Not Today, and we made a companion short film called Tomorrow that we filmed at the same time in the same week a few summers ago. So the concept was that this would be the first kind of vision of this male friend group, and then we would see them in a different story, but it's the same characters, and the tone is radically different. So if this one is more of like has a tragic kind of failure at the end, these characters succeed in overcoming these barriers that are between them and actually have a relationship that's more platonically, physically, and emotionally intimate. As a vision of what I would like to see the future I want to live in.
Nice. How do you feel about cats' romantic partners? Or are you
Oh, you want to get into it? Oh, okay. Well, we're going to need a little more time. No, I'm just kidding. It's getting a little shady, you know what I'm saying?
Thank you so much for
Just
being
kidding.
here. Thank you.
I'm so honored.